Today, I'm going to take you through the action-packed couple of days that we spent in the Windy City, the huge metropolis that is Chicago in Illinois. We were heading onto Route 66 the following day, but we knew we had to take some time to properly explore the city before we left. So, whether you're planning a US trip, or if you're like us and are driving Route 66, this video will hopefully entice you to spend at least 24 hours or more in Chicago, whether it's at the beginning or end of your trip. With that being said, if you haven't already, I'd really appreciate you hitting that subscribe button to help me out, and also love it if you would take the time to hit the like button as well, especially if you're watching on a TV, which many are these days. And now, let's take a wander, shall we? Our journey started off in a very wet and windy Dublin in Ireland. To pass the time, and in typical Irish fashion, we enjoyed our first holiday drink in the airport while waiting for our flight. This was the start of a 3-week journey for us, starting with 2 nights in Chicago, followed by an 18-day road trip on iconic Route 66. After you watch this video, I highly recommend watching the unforgettable side trip we took from Route 66 to the Grand Canyon. I put the link to this video in the description below, or just click on the recommended video at the end of this one. Soon we were boarding and we settled in for the 8.5-hour flight across the pond to Chicago O'Hare Airport. On our descent, we enjoyed some amazing views of Lake Michigan and the Chicago skyline. It was Erica's first time in the US, so she couldn't wait to start exploring. If you're lucky like we were, you will be treated to a great view of the Chicago downtown while taxiing to your arrival gate. Once you're in arrivals and heading towards baggage claim, be sure to enjoy walking down the terminal hall where the famous Home Alone 2 scene was filmed. After a short wait, our bags arrived and we were ready to hit Chicago downtown. Getting from Chicago O'Hare to downtown is very easy. Simply follow the well-posted signs for the Blue Line train to the city. This is also by far the cheapest way to get to the city, costing us only $5 in total. When we arrived on the platform, there was already a train waiting for us, so we hopped on board and grabbed a seat. The train journey took about 50 minutes, and it was actually a great way to begin our sightseeing, taking in the many suburbs and communities as you near downtown. In America, the type of housing and the city layouts are completely different than what we're used to here in Europe, so that in itself is always fascinating for me to see. Once in downtown, we checked into the Palmer House Hotel, our base for the next 2 nights. The longest operating hotel in North America, it was the epitome of luxury back in the early to mid 1900s. Just take a look at its amazing 2-story palatial lobby and bar, where we enjoyed a couple of drinks during our stay. Today though, we just checked in and dropped our bags off, wanting to get out and do some exploring ASAP. Our sightseeing began at Millennium Park, which is a 24-acre green space, with landscape walkways, an outdoor theatre, and perhaps one of the most famous attractions in the city, Cloud Gate, which is a reflective sculpture. Everyone calls it the Beam, which is a rather fitting name, don't you think? Unfortunately, it was closed during our visit this year, in May, but I believe it's open now again for everyone to enjoy. As such, we couldn't get too close, which was a pity, but we were able to see enough to get some pictures and cross that item off the list. At Christmas, they also put up a massive Christmas tree here in this plaza, and also have an ice rink below the bean sculpture, which must be pretty magical and cool to see. Before moving on, we stopped and had a late lunch, our first ever Chick-fil-A burger, or sandwich as they say over here, and I gotta say it was delicious. We finished our lunch by grabbing a cappuccino at Intelligentsia, a coffee chain that began here in Chicago in 1995. With that, we were ready for our next stop, and that was visiting the Route 66 Begin sign at the junction of East Adams Street and Michigan Avenue. Very simple to do, but it was nice to be able to mark the start of a Route 66 journey. Also, anyone interested in the arts, the Art Institution of Chicago is right across from the Route 66 sign we just saw. Even though we didn't go in ourselves, we took some time to admire the building, and we loved the two imposing lions that stand guard over the museum entrance. Keeping the Route 66 theme going, we next visited Lou Mitchell's, an iconic Route 66 diner here in Chicago. While it was sadly closed when we passed by, I still got the old school vibes just from filming the exterior. And from here, we can also see another tourist attraction in the distance, the iconic Willis Tower. Let's head there next. Willis Tower is a 110-story tall skyscraper. The tower has a viewing deck on the 103rd story called the Sky Deck, where you can step onto a glass bottom floor and take in expansive views of the city. I nearly always prefer to look at tourist attractions rather than look out from them, so we didn't bother with this. But what we did do is have another one of our favourite beverages, coffee. Thankfully, there is a Starbucks in the tower itself, so we just sat down here, rested our legs, and people watched for a half hour. Next up, we wanted to go check out Union Station, which is a tourist attraction all by itself. Built in 1925, it's the nation's third busiest railway station. The architecture is just stunning in here, and it's very well maintained and looked after. For film buffs, it's also a must visit because it's where the famous baby carriage scene was shot for the 1987 feature film The Untouchables, starring Kevin Costner and Robert De Niro. Overall, we were glad we visited, but if it's not for you, it could easily be skipped as well. After this, we decided to go back and relax in the hotel for a couple of hours, in preparation for heading out again and trying one of Chicago's famous restaurants later on. And that famous establishment was the Berghoff, serving beer and authentic German fare since 1898. In peak season, this place is packed, so definitely reserve ahead if planning to go here. The inside has an old school charm and a homely feel, even though it's a massive space. I had to go for one of their famous dishes, the Wiener Schnitzel. And here it is, the famous schnitzel, accompanied by cream spinach and Spätzle, which is a popular egg noodle side dish in Germany. Let's get a little bit of everything on the fork here and give it a taste. Well, the schnitzel was excellent, crispy and flavoursome. I give it an 8 out of 10. Plus, our server was excellent throughout. With that, it was off to bed, ready for an early start the next morning. We began our second day early with a long walk which took us south of downtown through Grant Park and into Museum Campus. Passing this lovely heartwood sculpture on the way, we made it to the edge of Lake Michigan, where we wanted to walk a good stretch of the Lakefront trail. It was a very overcast day when we did this, but in the sunshine, this 18-mile paved path must be stunning to experience. Even though the weather was not the best for our walk, the few miles we did were very enjoyable. With the weather clearing up a bit, we eventually made it to our next massive tourist attraction, the Chicago Riverwalk. For me, it's a must-do when in Chicago. This 1.25 mile walk is a recreational space for locals and tourists alike. The riverside promenade is filled with bars and restaurants, as well as spaces where you can just simply relax and enjoy the expansive Chicago River and admire many of the 37 movable bridges that cross it. During our walk, you won't be able to miss the 92-story Trump Tower, which contains a hotel along with commercial and residential spaces. Whatever you think of the man himself, it sure is a stunning building in the heart of the city. After walking for over 2 hours, we badly needed a pick-me-up, and I had a very unique spot in mind for doing just that. That unique spot was a Starbucks Reserve Roastery, located on the magnificent mile, about a 10-minute stroll from where we exited the Riverwalk. Opening its doors in 2019, it's the largest Starbucks in the world. Spanning over 5 floors, it's pretty overwhelming to say the least. The first floor had pastries and your normal coffees. You could also buy merch and coffee beans on this level. Here is a quick look at the different floors and what was on each. Pause here if needed to check it out. We decided to go to the experiential coffee bar on the 3rd floor because we wanted to try some unique drinks. We managed to grab seats by the window and got our drinks, that being a cold brew malt and a cold brew trio flight, both costing a whopping $13 each. Not cheap here, that's for sure. In particular, I was very interested to see what this one would taste like, the whiskey barrel aged cold brew. Also, I am an absolute sucker for a good milkshake, so let's get stuck in here. My milkshake was beautiful. Coffee mixed with vanilla gelato and chocolate bitters. An ultra thick malted milkshake. I could probably live on these, given the chance. Next up, the whiskey barrel aged cold brew. Let's give it a sip. Crazily enough, there was a subtle whiskey taste to this. We both enjoy whiskey, and it's a lot tastier than a regular cold brew. So again, we were well impressed. The other 2 cold brews in the flight were only average. Nothing really spectacular about them at all. After finishing our drinks, we made our way up to the 4th floor. On this level, you will find a lovely cocktail bar, where you can get classic cocktails, but also Starbucks signature cocktails, where they include coffee into various different drink creations. We ended up just having a browse around here instead of trying anything, being pretty full after sharing the malt earlier. With that, we headed out, as there was still some important things to do before the day was out. However, if you're a coffee lover like us, I highly recommend coming here to try something different and unique. Feeling like a snack, we knew we had to try another iconic Chicago delicacy, Garretts Popcorn. With 50 shops worldwide and a strong online business, it all started here in Chicago back in 1949. Customers love their signature item, the Garrett mix, which is cheddar popcorn and caramel popcorn mixed together. A very odd combination, but we wanted to try it out for ourselves. Alright, the moment of truth. Will it actually taste any good? Well, the pop kernels are huge, which is always a good sign. I'm going to be very controversial here and say that for me, I would prefer them on their own. In particular, the caramel popcorn was incredible. I just don't think the two flavours mix well together at all. Let me know in the comments if you agree with me, or if I'm now banned from eating Garretts Popcorn for life. We finished walking the magnificent mile after this pit stop and checked out Oak Street Beach at the end. A fantastic spot in the summer, no doubt. Now, onto our final dinner in Chicago. I couldn't leave the city without trying Chicago-style deep dish pizza, and where better to try it than Giordano's. While waiting for my deep dish to cook, we ordered a side of Parmesan fries to share. Crispy and fluffy on the inside, with a kick of Parmesan flavour at the end. It hit the spot nicely. Erica went for the meat sauce with rigatoni, and of course, this is the main event, the deep dish pizza with pepperoni. I have only ever had frozen deep dish pizza back in Ireland, which was bang average, so my mouth was literally watering at the prospect of trying the real and authentic thing. My verdict? I have to admit, it was out of this world good. The crust was so unique, like a mix between a short crust dough and regular pizza dough. However they made it, it ended up being very flaky and buttery to taste. I thought the amount of cheese would be overkill, but again, I was wrong. It was the perfect amount. And of course, the flavoursome tomato sauce with pepperoni just topped it off completely. Also, it may have looked small, but I can tell you it was extremely filling. Folks, you have got to try this whenever you get to Chicago. It was mind-blowingly good. Well, what a great way to end our 2-night stay here in Chicago. I hope you enjoyed coming along with us. That's it for now, and I will catch you on the next wander. But wait, before you go, check this video out next.